current state of the web, and the book that I wrote goes into a lot more detail. I know a lot of you have that, so I'm going to go high level with the thesis on this talk, but then I hope that a lot of us can get into Q&A. I'm going to try to keep a bunch of Q&A because I think that's when we get into the individual details of maybe how this impacts your business. And I think the fun, high-end stuff is good to talk about, but the details, the actual execution, the blocking and tackling, the devil's in the details, is the part that I actually most care about, because my filter in this is about business. I mean, I think there's a lot of things going on with social media that are impacting our worlds. I think we know a lot about what's going on with governments being overthrown and Occupy this and that. And so clearly there's a lot of things going on with the way communication is being handled because of social media. But my filter and what I'm going to talk about today really impacts the individual entrepreneur or businesses. How many people in this room are aware of who I am and pretty much know my spiel? Raise your hands. Not bad, but still 80% don't, so that hurts my feelings. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, North Carolina. So, because most don't, I'll give you a little bit of my background. I think that will set the context for what I'm going to talk about. I was born in Belarus in the former Soviet Union. I came to this country when I was 3 years old, so I very much lived the immigrant lifestyle. We lived in a studio apartment in Queens, New York, with 8 family members, slightly smaller than the stage that I'm on now, which was pretty difficult because my great-grandma was completely crazy, so things were weird. It was kind of classic immigrant story. My dad became a stock boy in a liquor store in New Jersey and commuted there for about an hour and a half every day from Queens for like a couple bucks an hour. So it was much of a grind. Eventually he became the manager of that store and then part owner. So we moved to Edison, New Jersey, where my entrepreneurial career started. When I was 6 years old, I had a franchise of 8 lemonade stands in the neighborhood. How many of you here, raise your hands, remember Big Wheels? Remember that little thing, Big Wheels? Nice. So I used to ride my Big Wheels in Edison, New Jersey to my 8 locations where I put my friends to work and pick up my cash like I was little Tony Soprano or something. It's pretty awesome. Actually, it's quite ironic. I always think back to that. It's amazing what you can learn about being a businessman when you're 6 years old. I had one friend. I used to give everybody 50 cups every day. And I had one friend who was skimming cash based on the math. His name was Eric Conrad. He skimmed cash, but he was also the best hustler of all my friends. Most of my friends just stood there. Still don't know how I got them to do that. But he actually made signs, and he was he used to jump in the middle of the street. He was a hustler. So because he made 10 times more money than anybody else, I kind of just let him skim from the top. So you can learn a lot about being a business person even at that age. Then I turned 12 and started my real first hardcore business, which was a baseball card business. I would go to the malls of New Jersey and do baseball card shows and make $1,000, $2,000 a weekend selling baseball cards, which was phenomenal. I don't know about you guys, but if you have $30,000 in cash under your bed and you're 13 years old and you're not selling weed, you're doing a good job. So I was pretty proud of myself. Things were going awesome. I was getting ready for the biggest card show of the year one morning. I paid $1,000 for the table, so it was a big deal. Couldn't wait. Was getting ready. Prepped all week. Was so pumped. And my dad came in and said, "You're coming to the store today to work." And I said, "No, Dad. You must have miscommunication here. I have a big show." I'm not sure how many of you grew up with a Soviet dad, but I lost that argument pretty easily. So that sucked crap. And so I'm out $1,000, and now I have to go work at the store. We drive 40 minutes to the store because that's how far we lived away from the store. And I start crying because I'm devastated. Finally composed myself when we're 10 minutes away from the store and asked my dad how much I'm going to get paid. And he said $2 an hour, which really made me start crying. And that's kind of how I started my career. For the first 2 years, I had to stay in the basement for 10 hours a day bagging ice. How many of you saw Goonies, the movie Goonies? I was sloth for 2 years. I was basically chained in my dad's basement and bagged ice for $20 a day instead of making $2,000 at the malls, hanging out with my friends and girls and loving life. So it was pretty tough. I hated it, but then finally when I was 16 and a half, I was allowed upstairs. I was working the floor one day, and basically my life took a change. And the reason I'm standing here was probably had a lot to do with that day. You know, I don't know about you guys, but you know those moments in time, sometimes you hear a song or have, you know, chill near you can like remember a moment. I can literally tell you, I can feel it in my body right now. Standing in the middle of my dad's store, it was a pretty interesting day. Every single person came in asking for the same wine. Caymus Special Select 1990 Cabernet Sauvignon, which was named Wine Spectator's Wine of the Year. Everybody wanted it, but we sold it out earlier that week, so everybody's coming in this Saturday and then leaving because we don't have it. And I'm standing there like any good punk entrepreneur saying, there's a problem here. Like, why are we letting these people come in and leave without anything? The next person that comes in, I'm going to take a back order. We didn't have a back order system, but I didn't care because I was going to school on Monday anyway. So we have to deal with it. So next person comes in. He goes, "Do you have the Caymus?" I go, "No, sir, but I'd like to take a back order." He's like, "Great." I said, "Okay, you know, name, address." I'm like, "How much would you like?" He said, "Well, I'll take 6 cases." And I'm like, "Ooh, an alcoholic." I'm like, 6 cases? Are you throwing a party? He said, "No. I collect wine." And that was it. Literally standing right there, I stood there and said to myself, Ken Griffey Jr., Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Silver Oak, Chateau Lafite, Chateau Montelena, same shit. I could do this. So I literally took all my passion about learning about sports and memorabilia and all that into learning about wine. Literally sat in class, you know, in science. I didn't give a shit about Saturn. I sat there and was learning about Pinot Noir and Pinot Grigio and just learning everything I could about wine. I wanted to be the biggest wine expert in the world. I was all in, and that's what I started really focusing on. When I went to school in Boston, I came home every single weekend from school. I mean, think about college life. I came home every single weekend to work in the store. I was just that committed. While in school, a really interesting day happened in 1995. I basically had a friend come into my room and say, "Dude, you've got to come here and see this." So I ran over to the room, they go on a computer, and I hear, remember that? That's how we all signed on for the youngsters in this room. And my buddy said, "Bro, you'll never believe this. We can get chicks on this thing." And so they start talking to girls on this AOL thing, and I'm like, and so I look at literally, I'm trying to really, I don't want to bullshit you guys. I think it must have been 90 seconds. So they're talking to some people like age, sex, location, and AOL stuff, and literally, in like 90 seconds, I'm like, I can sell shit on this thing. And so for the next month or two, I kind of started learning the platform AOL. I was like scared of the World Wide Web. And I started realizing, wow, I started selling some baseball cards and some collectibles on it. And that really led to me to launching WineLibrary.com, my family's liquor store. My dad's store was called Shoppers Discount Liquors. I really wanted to be a wine company, so I registered WineLibrary.com to kind of rebrand it. So I launched WineLibrary.com in 1996. Here's where it starts getting interesting. Forget about my bio, but what I think really matters to everybody in this room. From 1996 to 2005, and really from 1998 to 2005, when I took over operations, I grew the business from a $3 to a $60 million a year business. I did that mainly on the back of innovation. That innovation was the internet itself, email marketing, banner ads. I was buying Google AdWords for the word wine for 10 cents. The biggest concern my dad had for that was that our competitors were going to click the word, our banner ads, our ads on Google, and charge us. These were the conversations we had in 2000 about Google AdWords. So there's a big reason I stand in front of you guys here today and completely believe that I will accomplish professionally what I want to accomplish, which is to buy the New York Jets. And here's why. The reason I firmly believe I'll be able to pull that off is because for my whole life, the reason I sold the majority of my baseball cards one day in the middle of a card show and started buying toys and comic books with it because I felt the market moving. The reason, even though I am not techy at all, that I launched WineLibrary.com in 1996 before I ever owned a computer. The most techy I was by the age of 20 was that there's nobody here that can beat me in NHL 94 for Sega Genesis. So I did not grow up techy, but what I care about is culture shifts. And my friends, if If I leave you with this lunch keynote with anything, I want you to understand that the culture shift that we are now living in right this second with what we're calling social media, which, oh, by the way, was called Web 2.0 5 minutes ago, which, oh, by the way, doesn't mean jack shit. It's just the current state of the internet itself. It's not something. Social media is not something. Social media is the word we're using for the current state of the internet, which, oh, by the way, is the single most important platform in the history of mankind. Maybe the printing press, maybe. But the internet, my friends, has changed the game. And what I know is people like to think they're not going to do things, and where I make my money and why I'm so confident is I know they will. Let's get really honest, North Carolina. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning today to be here, so please do not half-ass me with your hand. I want a full hand straight up. I'm not interested in your bullshit head nod. I want this. All right? Here we go. I'm going to ask a question, and if it's true, I want you to raise your hand. How many people here, probably 3 years ago, said to themselves, maybe a couple months ago, maybe 5 years ago, depends on how you roll, how many people said the following thing to a friend or a family member, or even more likely within their own heads to themselves? How many people here, don't bullshit, lying is the devil? How many people here said this? I'm not getting a Facebook account. Why would I ever need one of those? Those are for kids. Raise your hands and don't lie. Hold them up. Please don't lie. I'll wait for some of the people that want to lie. Raise them. It's a big number. It's probably 70-80%. Great. Of those people, just those people, please raise your hand right now if you have a Facebook account. Hey, camera dudes, did you catch that? Probably not, because you focused on me, but that's where the real action was. Let me tell you something. That right there is what really matters to me. What you just saw, and a lot of you saw it, sorry, front row, you can look back, I didn't warn you. What we just saw was probably 80% of this crowd saying that they would never be on Facebook, and then of that 80%, probably 90% of them are now on Facebook. This shit matters, I'll explain. How many people here, I see that it's not just kids in the crowd, so this might be a fun one. We might have some people being really brave. I'm going to take you real back, a little old school. How many people in this room said, this was probably 15 years old, maybe 10, 12. How many people here said this thing? I'm not getting a cell phone. Why would I want anybody to contact me anytime they want? Raise your hands. As a matter of fact, do me a favor, you're eating, exercise is good, just because we're eating so much meat. If you said that, please stand up. It's massively important. Please don't be lazy, please, this matters to me. If you said at some point that you would not have a cell phone, you're like, why would I get one? I can be bothered anytime. Please stand up. I'm going to give a minute to anybody who, thank you, sir, for holding it off. Just real curious. If you now have a cell phone, please sit back down. Nobody's standing. What? Holy shit!
Doesn't have one.
Cell phone, are you kidding me? Let's hear it for Linda, no cell phone. That's amazing. Linda, you're like more rare than an alien. Amazing. I got to touch her. What's that? Do you have a beeper, Linda? No, thank God. Guys, there are a ton of smart people here saying to themselves, what's this social media? What's the ROI? Why would we waste our time? How are we going to make money on it? What is this thing? So many people don't understand that we are living through an enormous culture shift. One that is so big. Actually, let's do this one. I like this one. How many people in this room have children between the ages of 12 and 18? Raise your hands. How many of you recall the conversation you probably had 24 months ago that went like this? Hey, Mom and Dad, you know what? Don't call me. If you want me, text me, or I'll text you back. Remember that one? Which you then said, I don't give a shit what you do with your friends. You can text back all the time, but when Dad calls you, you pick up the damn phone and we're going to talk. You guys remember that one? Just curious. How's that going? And guess what? It's not because little Billy and Sally are so smart. It's because they have technology on their side. See, we are living through the single biggest culture shift of all time. The internet, the consumer web. I don't need some nerd raising their hand saying, well, actually, in the 1960s, I know. I'm talking the consumer web is 17 years old. Windows 95 and AOL, when they actually spammed our actual mailboxes, that was only 1995. The far majority of you, I see some youngsters, but 99% of this room, how many people here do not remember the world pre-internet? Not figuratively, literally, you can't sit here and remember anything pre-internet. Raise your hands. Like 7 people. And 3 of them were lying. You're not that. So we're talking about something that is brand spanking new and is massively changing our culture. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, and on and on and on, StumbleUpon and YouTube and on, they're great, but they're products layered on top of the internet. And most important to everybody in this room, every other platform that we have used to do business, whether we're B2B or B2C, is corroding in front of our eyes. See, I'm a big fan of traditional media. I am. For as much as I diss on television and print and radio and direct mail and all the other ways people market, I like that. My problem is I don't like the prices and the reality of the 2012 world. Our eyeballs and ears and our attention is the only thing anybody in here that cares about selling something, and if you're in business, you're selling something. The only thing you guys care about is attention. You want to get somebody's attention, and then you convert it. What I'm doing right now is the way that business has been marketing for the last 150 years. You have a platform, you push your message, and you convert. If I'm giving a good keynote right now, you'll like it. If it's bad, you won't, and you will make your decision. That's the way we've always done it. For the last 100+ years, marketing has been one way: push. Stack it high, let it fly. Deepest pockets, most opportunities. And you pound it down the consumer. Radio. Back in the day, people used to stand around and listen to the ball game on the radio. And then there was commercials. We went to television, big platform shift. What happened? Commercials. You watched, they stopped, they pounded your face, and then we moved on. Newspaper. You're reading articles, what's in your face? Pounding. Pushing. Magazine. Page 131 of Vogue, pounding you with perfume. Push, 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 push. Mom driving to the store, drive time radio, billion-dollar industry, because you better push your Tide commercial or your Kellogg's commercial right before mom's about to buy it on the way to the store. Push. Internet. Big shift, right? I just talked about how big. What happened? Push. We went on websites to read it. Banner ads. Push. Email service. Push. We've been pushing for 150 years. The current state of the internet, what we're calling social media, is the first time ever that we're looking at something called pull marketing. Two-way conversations. A completely different way of marketing, and that is the reason why so many companies are struggling with this shift, because this is relationship-based marketing. This is lifetime value. This isn't quick conversion. We know quick conversion. Let me give you a secret about something that's going on right now that I think people are grossly underestimating because they're reading headlines and they're not digging deep. Groupon, Living Social, Guild Group, all these sites, even Zynga and the people that built games in Facebook, they're all winning. And yes, I understand the IPO and the shady accounting practices. Take that away. I'm talking about getting 80 million users to use something on one day. I'm talking about going from zero revenue to billions of dollars in revenue in 2 years. The reason these companies have been able to do this, and something that everybody in this room should know, is that customer acquisition has been mapped. Let me say it again, because I really, really, really want you guys to get this. Customer acquisition has been mapped. It is so easy in 2012 to figure out the cost of acquiring somebody to sign up for a newsletter, to buy something, to consume your video. You spend enough money, you try enough things on Google AdWords or Facebook ads or the new Twitter ad platform or retargeting, because you go to some site and they cookie you and then you just keep seeing the same banner ad everywhere. Retargeting, converting people, this is a science. Marketing guys like me hate this. When I used to do the Wine Library email newsletter, and that's a big part of my growth, I used to write the title and all the copy, and it would do better than anybody in the building, and I pounded my chest, I was a genius, and then all of a sudden, a couple years ago, one of the computer department people said, you know, Gary, if we made it an orange wine, and if instead of Chardonnay, you put Chard, we would sell more wine. And I was like, shut the fuck up, nerd. And the reason I reacted that way was I knew my goose was cooked. I knew the Mac of it all had finally caught up to the awesome marketing ability that I had. And clearly and immediately, my brain switched and I said, holy shit, the game's changing. Nerd here can sell more than me. That's wild, because he won't even talk to a human being in the wild. And so I had to think about this, and I had to transform. And so what I started realizing was the way I built my businesses, and the way I think about business, and honestly, the way I see people working social media today, the reason I think 99% of the companies that are on social media right now, and that really means having a Twitter page and a Facebook page, I think 99% of them are doing it wrong. And I think it falls under the thesis that we were all trained to do. Back to that push, most people, most businesses are hunters. We hunt. We want more business. We want to convert. I always say the reason so many people suck at social media is because they act like 19-year-old dudes. They try to close on the first move. And that's what I see. I see a bunch of companies struggling with that. They're pounding. They're pounding their message. Nobody wants to follow somebody on Twitter or join a Facebook fan page so you can just push your commercial down their throat and just push what's in the best interest of you, not the consumer, down their throat. This is the big reason as we move away from IQ, which is conversion and hunting, and we go to EQ, which is lifetime value and percentage of wallet spend. We are living through a massive culture shift that, in my opinion, let me put it on the record, on video, the far majority of corporate America CEOs in 20 years from today, and the far majority of most successful entrepreneurs 20 years from today will be women. Amazing. Not one dude clapped. And the reason that I believe that is because I think it's going to be very emotional and intuitive and nurturing. I'm lucky because I'm very girly, so I'll be fine. But those are the things that are going to matter, because the other stuff, my friends, is becoming commodity. See, as more people get educated in these 4 or 5 organizations that really figured it out, they're going to spread out. We're going to hire them. We're going to bring them in. Our quant guys and gals are going to come in. How many people here are a UX or UI designer? Raise your hand. Very few. Maybe 5 to 7. Maybe 12. They may be the 12 most important people in this room right now, because they're the ones that are going to tell you how to convert. Amazing. No non-UX UI designer class. Good stuff. These guys and gals that just raised their hands are massively important. We're spending so much time and energy to get people into our funnels. As we all now live more and more digital lives, those funnels become our websites and our fan pages, and they understand conversion. They understand. See, it came to me pretty intuitively, because the way I built my family's liquor business and the wine store, wine library, was I moved around displays. I changed the dynamics of the store. It became obvious to me I was doing UI and UX in a store level, end caps, front of register. It changed everything. It was all gaming. I understood it. It came to me. And that's going to happen more and more. It's happening at the same time that even a bigger culture shift is happening, which is we're tuning out push, and pull is all that's going to be left. See, the ROI of social media to the 1,500 of you that want to be in business in 10 years is actually still being in business. See, what's going to happen is everything else is diluting in front of your face. You may not realize it, but let me help you do that. How many people here watch television? Raise your hands. Very nice, most. Good, I like some TV. How many people here have a DVR or TiVo? Raise your hands. Very nice. How many people in 2012, besides live sports and events, have TiVo'd or DVR'd 95% of the stuff they've consumed? Raise your hands. Far majority. How many of you in 2012 have not consumed one single commercial? Raise your hands. Less than I thought, actually. Probably the least hands I've seen. Because what I'm seeing as I talk about this is how many people are not even consuming one commercial because they're DVR. Outdoor media. Billboards. Anybody who lives in Jersey? Anybody from Jersey here? Very nice. Jersey. If you've been there in the last 5 to 7 years, you might have seen some of my billboards. I used it a lot for Wine Library TV. Big picture of me holding a glass of wine. I lived in Manhattan. And there was nothing more exciting than driving to the store every day than seeing yourself. You look handsome. You look handsome. So that's why I really did it. But I love outdoor media. I think it's grand. I think the value of impressions is kind of interesting. I like it from a branding standpoint. However, there's a cultural phenomenon going on right now, which is, when you drive home from this event today, do me a favor. Please look at the 5 people. Look at 5 cars. Do me a favor. Write this down. Don't forget. Text yourself. Look at 5 people when you're driving today. And just look at it. Just drive. Think about this topic. Man, that Gary was so fucking awesome. Oh yeah, I gotta look at people. Look. 5 people. 3 of them are texting while they're driving. Guys, Oprah is right. It's dangerous out there. Like, it's scary. So, outdoor media. You think people are looking at billboards? They're not even watching the fucking road. They're not watching the road. They're not seeing your billboards. TV consumption of commercials has disintegrated way beyond what people think. Newspaper readers. How many people here in the last 5 years went from reading the newspaper every day to not at all? Raise your hands, just curious. It's a lot. It's the first time I've asked that question. It's a lot. Newspapers, and then magazines. Here's my favorite one, magazines. People at the debate magazine, when they ask me what the ROI of social media is, I always ask them, what was the ROI of your ad spend in that magazine? I know there's 1 million circulation, but how many people went to page 137 and actually consumed your ad? They don't know. There's no ROI to that. They can guess. There's a formula that's been accepted. And then there's search and SEM, right? Google's going through major transitions. Google Plus, my friends, is launched for one major reason. If Google doesn't get social right now, their search is in jeopardy. The way people are searching in 2012 is very different than the way we searched in 2000. I used to go to Google for everything. Now I go to my social stream. Either it comes to me, oh wow, people are talking about this movie, so I'll go see it, or I literally go out on Twitter or Facebook the question and wait for it to come to me. On top of which, as our social graph is being mapped, and that's what's happening, our social graph has been mapped. How many people here have reconnected with somebody on Facebook that they had not talked to for 10 plus years? Raise your hand. By the way, that might be the most hands in the whole place. It's almost everybody. 10 years. You didn't know, you didn't talk to the person, you lost touch, you're reconnected. How many people here have reconnected with somebody they haven't talked to in 20 years? Raise your hand. It's incredible. 30. Amazing. 40. I love you guys. 50. Give it to me. Anybody? Shit. All right. So, let's talk about why this is important. Here's my belief, my friends. My belief is that marketing and the commerce world, which is why I call the book The Thank You Economy. Economy is not a small world. You know, economy is the whole thing. Economy, I didn't use it the thank you theory or the thank you movement economy. I believe that the trillions of dollars in play over the next 20 years are going to go to the social platforms of the world or whatever it evolves into. Because my belief is that one thing that everybody here knows, B2B or B2C, and I'm going to see a lot of people shake their head right now because we all know it, word of mouth and people recommendation is how we buy shit. And it's how we really bought shit in the 1920s and 30s. And I stand here in front of you and let you know very simply that it is my firm belief that your grandparents are more prepared to do business over the next decade than you guys are. That the way they built their businesses and lived their lives in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s is so fundamentally different than the way we have lived our lives. And what's happening is we are going back to small town rules. Because in a small town, you knew everything about everybody. You had context. How many people here have heard content is king? Raise your hand. Good amount. And I believe that. Content is king. If your product isn't good, if what you're saying isn't strong, you can't win. My show, Wine Library TV, did really well. A lot of people give the credit of like Facebook and Twitter and all the marketing, but if I didn't know a lot about wine, if I didn't study wine for 15 years before my first show, I would have lost because I would have been exposed for my knowledge. You know what Apple's social media strategy is? Make good shit. So they're not worried about what I'm worried about. But content is king, and that is accepted, and I'm fine with that. But the word that I truly believe so many of you are going to care about, and the word that everybody's going to be talking about over the next decade is context. I believe that we're living through a context war right now. One that is so different from a marketing standpoint that I'm curious, as I talk through this, how many light bulbs go off in this moment of the talk, because it really matters. Context is fascinating. I believe that we're living through the humanization of business. I think that we're forming relationships on Twitter and Facebook with brands and companies, and we don't realize it. And if you pay attention to the way that people talk to Nike, or Burberry, or Mountain Dew, or on, you get really into some interesting psychology of who we are as human beings, because we need to communicate. It is the core need for us as human beings. As a matter of fact, the most extroverted of us, clearly, but the most introverted people in this room are still pretty extroverted when you compare it to a tree or a rock. And so we need to communicate. As a matter of fact, it is why the fashion industry is a quadrillion-dollar business that goes nowhere. We use clothes, the things we wear, the nice boots we wear, the shirt, the tie, the beautiful checkered black and red jacket. We do that to communicate to people who we are. And that is what we need to do. And now we have a platform that has connected us back to these small town rules. You now have context. You know what's in trouble? Dunbar's number. Dunbar's number is in trouble. The 20, 30 year ago version of us had 8 to 15 acquaintances, right? You have so many more acquaintances right now because these platforms, you don't realize it. When I left for college, because there was no AOL Instant Messenger and kids didn't have cell phones back then, I lost all my friend relationships, right? That's where a lot of you lost a lot of these relationships. The 40-year hands, that's where you're talking about grammar school and high school and middle high and all that. You lost those connections because when you moved, there was no way to connect. Now, you can't get rid of fucking friends. Now, let's take it to the next level. Let's take this to where I really start getting excited, and let me paint you some pictures. So fine. So now we have more acquaintances. We're spending more and more time on Facebook and Twitter and things like that. By the way, I don't care if it's something else going forward, but the can of worms has been opened. We will be connected to each other, and we will talk and communicate. I don't care what you call it, forever. It's on, forever. That's it. Don't debate. It's over. Like, there's people in this room that literally, go look at YouTube, there's people literally on TV saying the internet was a fad. Do not be on the wrong side of history. Social media is not a fad. The word's gonna change. We're gonna call it cloud, mobile, humanization, I don't know, some shit like that, but the internet is what we're really talking about. And so now that we have all this context, here's something that happens. Our language, the way we communicate, is changing. Stick with me. We all sit here and agree that the music industry was disrupted by technology, right? It looks a whole lot different. Publishing. This book that you have in front of you, the last book I ever write with a publisher. Why should I share the revenue? I'll go direct to Kindle or iPad or something else. I don't need to share it. Publishing has been transformed. It's over. It's now just a matter of time. 10 years ago, in one of my first keynotes, because I was talking about e-commerce and shipping and email, I said that the post office was out of business, to which I got booed. I'm a little more popular nowadays than I was back then. People literally thought I was an idiot, but we can see that that model doesn't sustain itself because, do you guys remember email? You guys remember email 1998, 1997? Do you remember how much you loved it? We made fucking movies about this. You got mail. I mean, we freaking loved email. Some of the older people in the crowd can tell you, remember? We loved it. I was like, shit, I gotta send as many emails as possible right now because I'm gonna charge for this shit. This can't be free. We loved it. How do you guys like email now? You know why? Because one other thing I want you to leave with here today. Being one, and being a very proud one, the reason we don't like email anymore is because marketers ruin everything. We do. I know, because I try to ruin everything. And by the way, everything I wrote, I'm devastated I didn't do this. I think we're going to another printing, so I'm going to add it. I'm devastated that my last page of this book didn't say, and oh, by the way, everything I wrote about will be ruined in 5 years. Everything I'm about to talk to you about in the rest of this talk will be ruined. You've got a moment in time. The social media opportunity is very limited because for the first 5 years, which is where I did it, it was authentic. It was very easy to be authentic. Now, the education of the value of it is becoming more transparent. I started a company called Vaynerchuk with my brother 3 years ago, and our clients like PepsiCo and GE and Green Mountain Coffee, big boy companies, big girl companies, real companies, they see the value. They're starting to understand the ROI, the lifetime value, because things are corroding. Open rates in email in America since the middle of 2009 are down 20%. That's a catastrophe. That's a real number. Why? Marketers ruin everything. Remember 2 years ago when you couldn't wait to get $40 worth of sushi for 20 bucks? Remember when you couldn't wait to get that spa treatment that was 60 for 30? When we were all signing up for Living Social and Daily Candy and Groupon and all these sites? Now, if they offer you $1 million home for 800 bucks, you don't give a shit, you're just deleting all that spam. So as everything corrodes around us that we used traditionally to get to consumers, do you know what click-through rates on banner ads in 1994 were? 70%. Do you know what they are now? 0.0000. Do you know that there's studies that say most of us can't even see the right side of a website because we know that that's where ads are and we've literally been trained to tune it out? I mean, there are major things going on, my friends. I mean, we know this. We're living with people that act differently. How many people here watch television with at least one other screen in front of them, a phone, an iPad, or a laptop? Raise your hands. Probably 75% of the people here. So why are commercials not doing call to actions? Why are they not sending me to Facebook right then and there to do something and induce all my other friends? It's the creative that's a problem. I mean, the reality of the marketplace is changing from, how many of you in here watch television with two screens? Phone, iPad, or phone, and laptop, or laptop and iPad. Raise your hands, don't lie, raise them high, be proud. I do, me too. Amazing. Maybe 25% of you. How many people here watch television with three screens in front of them? iPad, phone, and laptop. Raise your hands high, I want to get the real feel here. The 30 of you are sick. Disgusting. And I want to hang out with you. Things are changing. Culture's changing. We are not adapting. Most people here are continuing to do what they've always done, and that's okay. It's good. AdWords has worked for me. What happens when Google's in trouble? What happens when everyday SEO and SEM are less valuable than they were before? You know what my Google was? 2000. When I searched something, the first page was what I wanted. It was a dramatically better product. But what has happened since then? SEO experts, black hat, this and that. That's why Google Plus, if you pay very close attention to Google, is already showing you your friends that plus something when you're doing search. Because you are going to trust Aunt Fran, and you're going to trust your friend Johnny, or the context you have with me as being a wine expert, much more than you're going to trust a search engine. Our social graph is going to dictate the things we buy. And the way we communicate, as I said earlier, has changed. Did you ever think you were going to write LOL to anybody? Have you looked at what's happened to grammar? Are there any English teachers in the room? Raise your hands. I am so sorry. Shit is nasty out there. People can't spell, and they're like proud. As somebody who can't spell, I'm thrilled, but still. We are now communicating in micro thoughts. The way we now talk has shifted. The record industry has been disrupted by technology. Publishing has been disrupted by technology. But the single biggest thing, my friends, that is being disrupted right now is communication. The way we talk to each other, the way we communicate, and that is the absolute fiber of how we buy shit and what services we use. And what else is fascinating to me is that every one of you here have seen something in your Facebook screen or your Twitter screen that nobody in the world would have picked up the phone and even called one person about. Think about the things you've seen in your Facebook wall, even today or yesterday. Nobody's picking up the phone and calling somebody and saying, Snickers from the freezer are delish. Or, if I wear my Tom's shoes today, I'll be the shit. People did not pick up the phone and call one friend about those crazy micro thoughts that we're now putting out there. Now we're putting it out to everybody. And because your social graph is bigger, and you've got context of people you went to high school with, and grammar school with, or were friends with when you lived in Pittsburgh, since they have context for you, when they say Snickers are delicious, and when you're going to 7-Eleven 2 days later, and you don't know why you're buying a Snickers, let me help you, because Bill from Pittsburgh said it was delish. And this is happening every day, and at scale. Every day, this is happening at scale, more and more, and your 8 to 12 hours of attention that you can allocate to be marketed to in the world, every day, more and more of that is being spent on these platforms. And they corrode at the other places. You guys, how many people here throw away all their direct mail? You get junk mail and just fucking throw it away, you little shit. 80% of you. How many people here go on, because I'll raise my hand, how many people here have marketed using direct mail in the last 24 months? Raise your hands. You know, but it's something you're comfortable with, you get some traction. It's like a TV adage or the other things you hear about advertising. I know 50% of what I spend is going to waste. I just don't know which 50%. I laugh when people talk about the ROI of social media because the Silicon Valley friends I have, the data nerds, the ones that beat me and now I became friends with them because if you can't beat them, join them. Those guys, they laugh at the way marketing has been looked at for the last 70 years. I promise you, we will look back at the last 70, 80 years, television ads, radio ads, direct mail, print, as the dark ages of marketing. Because when we didn't actually know the data, when we were guessing. We have the data now. The data, Nielsen ratings? Really? Really? There's like 8,000 people that have a Nielsen box that represents every one of us. And then on top of that, they actually send them surveys. Remember Scantrons, those fucking Scantrons? People fill that out like, yeah, I watched the fucking 18. No, you didn't, And so, we are living through the biggest culture shift of our time. You're feeling it. People that have younger kids are like, shit, I don't even know what they're doing. You feel like they're not communicating. You're worried about your kids because they sit at home all day and talking instant messenger or Facebook, and you're like, they're not social, they're not getting out. They're dramatically more social than you. You remember all those Tuesday afternoons when you were in middle school, when you lived far away from your friends or your mom wasn't home to drive you somewhere? What were you social with? You went outside and fucking went on the swing, the tire swing on your tree. What were you social with? The tire in the fucking tree? You weren't social. Yes, I understand human communication, but let me tell you something. Robert, who's sitting right here, who has come to 2 book signings of mine in the Northwest. I saw him tweeting today. We hugged it out before I took the stage. We've probably spent, I've given talks, and we've probably spent 3 to 4 hours together of all time in the same room. But really, one-on-one, 15, 20, 30 minutes, all time. However, because of social media, I have tremendous context for him. I have a much bigger, deeper feeling for Robert than the far majority of people in here because of the communication and the way we communicated online, and I feel it. People that don't do it, I love when people say things about Facebook and Twitter or how you communicate or the real feelings in it when they don't actually use the product. How do you know? I know what it feels like. I know the context that I'm making with it. And we're living in context war. How many people here use twitter.com/search every single day to search their business or their handle on Twitter? Raise your hands. I want to jump off the stage and kick 99% of you in your mouth with my shoe. Please do me one favor. Forget the texting and looking at how many people are driving and texting. Forget that I look way better in real life than I do in my pictures. Forget all those things that you're thinking right now. I want you to do one thing. Promise me that right after this talk, you will go to twitter.com/search and you will search your business or brand name. When you're done with that, because when I first started doing that, nobody knew who I was. I had to create context, and now I get thousands of ad replies to Gary Vee, right? But after you do that, I want you to search your industry. See, what's happening is, my friends, is we're living in a cocktail party. What the web is a cocktail party right now. See, the last 15 years were that push marketing, right? It was what I'm doing now, giving a presentation. The skill set of giving a presentation versus working the room is a very different skill set. And right now, we have a web where you can work the room. When you're done here today, you go to twitter.com/search. I want you to search your brand and your business. You'll be stunned at what you might find, considering 90% of you plus haven't done it. And 2, when you're done with that, I want you to search your genre, because that's what I had to do. When I first started Wine Library TV, I couldn't search Gary Vee. Nobody cared about me, nobody was talking to me, and Twitter was quite small, to be honest with you, in 07. But I was searching Chardonnay, and Merlot, and Bordeaux, and Pinot Grigio. Every person in this room knows their industry. You know the words that are specific to your industry. Whether you're in B2B, real estate, whatever you're in, you know the words that are said. You know your expertises. And I ask you, and I implore you to understand and not be a 19-year-old dude. Please be bigger than who you are. The way to win in social is to be bigger than who you are. When I was helping all those people with their wine questions, I wasn't linking back to winelibrary.com product pages and trying to sell. I wanted to be America's wine guy, not sell a couple of extra boxes of Pinot Grigio. And when you take that approach, when you pay forward, The reason you love your parents is because they loved you first. When you take that approach with your consumers and actually build community and actually care about them, the lifetime value and the percentage of their wallet grows. The reason my book, Crush It, my first book, which was a surprise New York Times bestseller to a lot of people, the reason it sold so well and so many copies is because I guilted my fan base into buying it. I'm serious. Do you know what it feels like to answer what wine goes with fish 70 fucking thousand times? It sucks. But I did it because I want to create context one by one by one by one. That's what I'm in the business of doing. I want to create context with Valerie. I'm not here today to sell any more books. The books are bought. I'm here to sell zero. What I'm here to do today is continue the context war. That I can make relationships with people. That a lot of you are getting context from me for the first time. Then you read the book and get deeper details. Then you reply me or go to facebook.com/Gary and say hello, and I respond back. Then you ask me a question, and I actually answer it. And I keep doing that. But people don't scale. People don't. I've hit that road. I get 3,000-4,000 emails a day. I get thousands of replies. I can't do it all. I can't scale. Me and Lady Gaga and Rihanna and the Biebs, we don't scale. But your business does. At Wine Library does. My clients at GE does. You know why? Because when you meet more people, you get more people. See, here's how I look at the world today. As we go more Jetsons, the actions and acting more like the Flintstones. As we go more Jetsons, the actions in the Flintstones. Because there's one thing I know about the nerds that have won. They've won. They're the precursor to the robots. They won. There's one thing I know about the nerds. They can dominate on acquisition, but they have no clue about retention. They can get you in, and they can convert you the first time, but they have no clue how to keep you. You know why? The way you keep business is one way: human beings. The future of social media and the future of the web is understanding how to scale human beings. You know why Groupon was offered $5 billion from Google? Not for the list, which Google can recreate in a heartbeat. Not for the business model. It's simple as hell. Because they had thousands of salespeople that had tens of thousands of relationships. And that was something Google can't replicate quick enough. That was something they had to buy. That individual human one-on-one engagement is the action. It is my firm belief that in 2012, to allow anybody to say anything on your Facebook wall or on Twitter about your business is grossly negligent to not respond to. I can't understand. It's what I call no engagement left behind. I can't understand why you would let somebody talk about your business on the public web, impacting their social graph, and for you to not jump in and engage with that. You are leaving huge collective opportunities on the ground. You are leaving it in thin air. You have the ability to create a relationship with the end user. People always said to me, wait a minute, Gary, so you're talking about 8 hours a day of engaging on Facebook and Twitter? That's what you say you do? When do I do my real job? Where I always say, when did your real job not consist of actually engaging with the actual consumer or the potential consumer? I promise you, if you're a small business, thank you, nice. Awesome, thank you. Fucking love North Carolina. Anyway. Because you know what, that excites me, because I think people, 37 of you that are awesome for clapping right there, you actually got it. Like, that's the thing, like, what the fuck? Like, companies are, guys, Bank of America, you heard about this $5 thing, right? They would have never pulled that off the table 10 years ago. They would have done it. New York Times would have wrote about it, Wall Street Journal would have wrote about it. You guys would have talked to each other in the hallways of your business, and it would have been over. Our collective voice has never been more powerful. The consumers have so much more opportunity to mold the conversation. A lot of social media experts, maybe somebody at this conference, next conference you go to, will say something stupid like, the consumer now controls your voice. Bullshit. The consumer does not control your brand. You do. However, they have the ability to contribute to it. And they have the ability to socially commentate about it. They have the ability to add their 2 cents, and it matters more. Because the gatekeepers of our society have lost their keys. There used to be 3 to 7, 12 powerful media people, and they just called the fucking shots. Michael Jordan, that guy is a scumbucket. Do you know the things that he did? I know this is a bad place to say it. I apologize. When everybody said, "Point silent on me right now," no fuck, well, listen, let's call a spade a spade. I want to call it truth. The guy got away with murder. If you understand the backdrop of the things he did, from like playing around and gambling and all this stuff. If you compare that to what happens to that same version in 2012 and 11, which is a Tiger Woods-like character, in the world of TMZ, in a world where every person here is now a media company. Every one of you, flip cams and iPhones in hand, ready to go. Remember when everybody said that MySpace was going to get all our little kids raped and don't let them on there? And everybody was like, oh my God, so scared of that. You remember that? This, that, and the other thing? In the last 10 years, crime on children is collapsing. Why? The bad guys can't get away with it. It's harder to hide. Social is taking the shadows of our society away. Everybody's one flip cam away, one camera away from posting something on Facebook. You can't hide. We are living through substantial culture shifts. And when you start layering the future of what's going to happen to this, how about this world? This is the world I live in. Let me paint you a picture of how I expect to shop in 5 years. I'll be in Walmart, and I'll take out my phone and be looking at it, because I don't know if you've noticed, when you're out in public, people are always on their phone, and I'll be looking at it, and a Facebook message will pop up. And it'll be my friend saying that the watermelons are in season and they're delicious. Because remember, we say a lot of dumb shit on Facebook. Or my friend will say, that this frozen pizza is delish, or that he's playing Monopoly, or whatever they may be saying. And because I'm in Walmart, and because I'm seeing something about a product or service, and because my phone knows where I am because of GPS data, and because Walmart has teamed up with whatever platform, whether that's Apple or Facebook or whoever it may be, to be able to push me a coupon on the spot, I will actually read my social graph. Somebody will say something about a product. I will be in a place where that product is sold, and then immediately a little coupon will pop up and tell me that if I buy a watermelon, or if I buy Monopoly, it's $2 or $3 off. At the height of my context for my social graph, who I trust more than a Facebook ad, who I trust more than a Google ad, who I trust more than a third-party recommendation engine, at that height, I will be socially induced to buy it. And then I will see it there, and I will just walk up to the register, and oh, by the way, I'm going to pay with my phone. Because credit cards are dead. 10 years from now, none of you will have them. All of you will be paying because phones will have NFC technology, or whatever Apple does to compete against NFC technology, and we'll all pay for it, and we'll all pay for our products via the phone. And guess what else? Whether you're a small business, and you're a real estate agent, or a landscaper, or you're doing B2B, we will have data on how much ROI we get from somebody's social commentary. I will be able to see, because all the data will be looped. They'll be looped that somebody said something about a watermelon, that I paid for it, that I was socially induced by the coupon, and all the data will come back, and we'll wake up in the morning, and M&M's will say, yesterday we did $17 million in sales because of word of mouth, and they can track every action of it. This is where we're going. We're going to a place where you're tuning out all the traditional advertising, you just don't realize it. The younger people in this crowd have been marketed to from the beginning of time. We're living in a world where Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, now chairman, came out a couple months ago and said, the amount of content that we produce as human beings in every 48-hour window, bless you, sir, in every 48-hour window, is replicated to the amount of content, every song, print, radio, television show, not America, the whole world, everything we ever created, all those Beatles songs, all Walter Cronkite's commentary, every Washington Post article, everything we've ever created, all the art, everything we've ever created in content, from the beginning of mankind until 2003. You even remember 2003. From the beginning of the time until 2003, all that content that we created is now being replicated every 48 hours. I want you to hold the hand of the person next to you so we can all kumbaya on that fucking fact. Seriously, I want you to own this. Every 48 hours, we're creating that much content. So what, you think your ad or your funny YouTube video is going to break through? You think that's going to break through? Nothing breaks through. It's so hard, once in a million. It's luck of the draw. Quality content for sure, but there's a billion pieces of quality content being put out today. Tons. And there's just too much volume for us to consume. No wonder all our kids have ADD. They have no fucking shine. And so, when you think about that, how are you going to break through? Only one way. Creating context in the future of one-on-one marketing. One by one, by one, by one, by one, by one. And Brian, I already have context for you because when I came out of the plane, you were there, and that 12-minute drive, I know about your 12-year-old son, your 8-year-old daughter, and now I have context. And then I said hey to you on Twitter, and that reinforced our connection, and now I'm mentioning you in my awesome keynote, which reinforces our contacts, and now we grow. And so the next time I come out with a book, Brian's gonna buy it, or support me, or when I wanna pass on something, because we're forming a relationship. And there's no way to replicate that at scale. I can't pound him with an email newsletter. You know, when you get those, how do you guys feel when you get those emails where you can tell that the whole message is copy and pasted and they just have their name there and it's like a different font and a different color? It's like shit. You know what I'm talking about? You feel good about that company? You want to support that? The only thing we're going to support is stuff that comes from here. Because the stuff that comes from here is being mapped. It's being understood. I know how to acquire wine customers right now that buy wine for $2.12. And if I want to spend $212 million, I know how many customers I have. But what's been fascinating to me is how we've been implementing the thank you economy in our store. We now call every single person that places an order on WineLibrary.com to thank them. Jersey happens to be one of the few states where you can record a phone call without telling the people that you're recording it. I wonder why. So I've been listening to the audios of these calls that we've been making to clients. Guys, it's hilarious. It's become my favorite entertainment. People are waiting for the other shoe to drop. You can literally feel them on the other line. Hey, this is Lily from WineLibrary.com. I just want to thank you for the order you placed. Hope you have a great day. By the way, that Zinfandel you might want to pair with barbecue or put away for 3 years. Have a great day. And literally, it's like, okay. We've literally had 12% of the people call back and apologize for being rude. They were so shocked. They were literally waiting for, and if you buy now, you get a free case of Pinot Grigio. That's what we're so trained for. We're so used to the other shoe. Something else that's fascinating to us. We've been A/B testing that. So we've customized a group of people we call and a group that we don't. The ones that we're calling are having a 77% higher spend with us than the ones who we don't. You know what else? When people, thank you, one person that gets it. Something else we're doing? When people unsubscribe from our email newsletter, we're calling them and thanking for ever being on. Thank you for ever being on. Yeah, we probably email too much. We apologize. Have a great day. We're always here for you. Almost 50% of the people are jumping back on the list. These are people who said, fuck you, Wine Library. I don't want your email anymore. Delete, unsubscribe. And then because we're giving them effort and human touch, they're subscribing back on. And here's where it gets real nasty. Of those people, which is 1 in every 2, their average spend post-phone call and re-sign up 200%. Wow. Human touch is going back. And understand this. You know, I know somebody's sitting right now like, yeah, they got me write those thank you cards. Thank you cards are becoming a commodity because everybody's doing it. You've got to go in a different way. We've started doing crazy shit. Check this out. We had a customer place an order, K. Murph, who's in the thank you department of our company, not customer service. We have a thank you department. Customer service is playing defense. The thank you department is on offense. K. Murph is now looking for people on Facebook and Twitter, matching them to when they come into the funnel so that we can have more context on who they are. We have the data of who they are as customers. We know what kind of wine they buy. But guys, the thing that has been happening in front of our eyes over the last 5 years is the social graph. Facebook has helped map who your friends and acquaintances are. The next huge opportunity for people in this room to market against and have real business building around is the interest graph. The things we like. How many people here use Pinterest? It's growing. Bunch of ladies and that dude. Good shit. Pinterest. Check it out. It's interest with a P in front of it. Tumblr. These sites are based on content discovery and interest graph. This data matters to me so much, though, that I have a full-time employee who tries to find people on Facebook and Twitter after they place orders so we can find out a little bit about them. Some guy places an order, and we find him on Twitter, and all he talks about is some random band. I can't even remember the name right now. You know, one of these underground kind of indie bands. So I tell K. Murph, go to eBay and find a unique item. We buy this guy who placed a $70 order, which means we made like 2 cents profit because we're a discount store. We buy this guy a $120 signed poster of the band and send it to him with a thank you card. We have no context if this guy's going to become a bigger customer, what's the ROI of him, if it's the only time he ever buys wine because it's for a party. No context. We send it. And we wait. And we're doing this every day. Random things. You know, $20 iTunes gift certificates. We bought somebody a Bears jersey because they're a huge Jay Cutler fan. He writes back and says, I've been spending $100,000 on my wine collection with a store here in Chicago. They don't even know who I am when I walk in. I have no idea how you know I'm a Bears fan. But I just want you to know you just bought a customer. The Kansas City guy with the band, he's not a big shopper, but he told every one of his friends. When we got a $9,000 order recently, they came through and said, hey, I just placed my first order with you. By the way, you took care of my friend Craig with that poster of the XYZ band. By the way, I'm a Rolling Stones fan. Guys, there's such a fundamental new way to market. It's going to take a lot of work. Most people, truly, especially when they read the book and get into the details instead of the spiel I do up here, they actually hate it. What I'm talking about, the future of marketing, is hard. Big companies love when you can just throw lots of money in a Super Bowl commercial and everybody high-fives themselves, and they're like, look what we did, we're the best, our monkey was funny with the Doritos. Fuck that. Small companies are sitting here right now and saying, when the hell do I do this? I've got 100 other things. He wants me to go in one by one. You know, when I tell you small companies in here, audit your day. Tomorrow morning when you brush your teeth, look yourself dead in the face, I promise you, no matter how tight you are in your business day, because I've been tight my whole life with it, for 2 or 3 or 4 or 1 hours a day, you're doing some dumb shit. Something that you can pay somebody for $12 an hour to do. You're doing something that isn't bringing you value in a 2012 world. You're doing it because it's what you're used to doing. It's what you're comfortable in doing. But you're doing something right now, probably several hours a day, that you don't need to be doing, that can be passed on to somebody else. It doesn't need to be done at all. You need to audit yourself and find yourself 2-3 hours a day to set up your Facebook fan page, and I'll talk about that in a little bit with Q&A. Your Twitter account for sure, searching, you need to engage. And then there's a bunch of you sitting here that are B2B, and you're saying, yeah, but my customers aren't there. Behind every B is a C. Behind every B is a C. Those robots I talked about earlier, they haven't taken over yet. They will. Let me prove it to you. How many people here, in no 24-hour cycle, including when you sleep, in every 24-hour cycle, you are never further away from your phone than arm's length? Raise your hand. Don't lie. Never. In every 24-hour window, your phone is at least within arm's length. Half of you. Just raise your hands. Do you know how sick that is?
Yeah.
This stuff is crack cocaine. You're addicted to it. And I promise you, you're going to hate this, but very soon you're going to see people with it in their hand. Drilled right in. It's going to suck. It's going to suck. Or you've probably seen some of these pictures where it's just in the air. The internet's in the air. You'll be connected all the time. Soon we're going to go all cyborg and shit. It's going to be fucking nasty. None of us are going to see it, so don't worry. It's going to take a long time. But they're going to win. But the phone is probably one of the more important things for you guys right now, because back to what I was saying about us paying, with this, I'm building an app one day that's going to be called Better Life. The app is going to be very smart, actually. I'm going to tell the app everything I want to do. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to buy my wife gifts once in a while, not just on her birthday and anniversary. I want to learn more about tea. Blah, blah, blah. When I land here in the airport, I may get a push notification that says the number 4 highest rated Yelp tea shop in America is in Raleigh. Make sure you check it out today. Or when randomly just living my life being in a meeting, it might just pop up and say, hey asshole, buy your wife some flowers, dick. Because I'm going to set it to nasty talk. Or when I go out to the airport and I'm running because I'm late and I've been running around today and I'm hungry and I just don't see anything, and I go, I'll take 2 Whoppers and 2 fries and a soda. And then I go to pay, it declines because this is what pays for the thing, and it says, hey fat ass, eat a salad. You know who's scared about that? McDonald's, right? And Burger King. And how about when your refrigerator is RFID'd out? What happens then? What happens when we all live in a world, you think smartphones are, that's it? You think we're stopping there? We're going to smart refrigerators, smart homes, all smart. We're going to be stupid as shit. When you have a smart refrigerator and you put in your Dasani water, your Pepsi, your Aquafina, and you keep taking it out, and when there's only one left, after a couple rotations, the refrigerator gets smart. And what happens when there's only one left, and they reorder that Dasani for you, and it just shows up? What happens when your toothpaste notices there's very little left, and it reorders itself for you? What happens? I'll tell you what happens. Walmart, and Publix, and Wegmans, they're in trouble. See, we've realized the middleman in publishing and in music are in trouble. I've told you that communication's in trouble. but everybody in the middle is in trouble, including these guys. What happens when LeBron and Payton and D-Wade decide to team up, go to China, make their product direct, and then sell it on Groupon? They don't need Nike. Direct to consumer. Soon, I'm gonna blow your mind with this one. Soon, every one of you, in 15 years from today, will be tired of getting free shit in the mail. Let me explain. I call it the free shipping rule. Free shipping, 1997, winelibrary.com. Biggest day in wine library history, still to this day, even though we're 8 times bigger of a company. I was packing orders to 5 o'clock in the morning for 4 straight days. People were buying wine that 4-day period like they thought the wine had a fucking cure inside of the bottle. One guy leaves a note that says, Gary, thank you, Wine Library, thank you so much for doing this. I just bought this wine for my daughter's wedding. I'm really excited you did this. You saved me some bucks. I, living in the thank you economy back then, but not realizing it, pick up the phone and call him and say, Jim, this is really fantastic. I'd like to send you a bottle of champagne for you and your daughter to enjoy during your wedding. He said, that's great, Gary, but no, my daughter is 12 years old. I said, what? He said, yeah, my daughter's 12 years old, but this free shipping offer is so sick, I'm gonna buy these 20 cases and put them in the basement and wait till she gets married. That is how shocking free shipping was in 1997. Now all of you are so spoiled, you don't buy shit unless it's free shipping. Right? And so I'm trying to say, you wait. Customers get used to things. Right now, over the next couple of years, companies are going to realize it's easier for them and better financially to market to you directly based on what you're saying to the universe and sending you products in the mail than it is for them to pay the middleman to get access to you. Nike will realize it's better for them to look at the people that are saying they're wearing Nike Airs or they love Nike or they're looking for new sneakers because these are the things we say, sending you a free pair in the mail, asking you what size and then sending it to you. That would be more cost effective than them signing a sponsorship deal with the NBA for them to be the platform for you to market to a certain demo to convert a certain demo. They will send you stuff. In the next couple of years, you're going to roll like this. You're going to start getting smart because customers are smart. You're going to wake up in the morning and you're going to say things like, instead of what you're saying now, you're going to say things like, going skiing. And then 2 days later, free skis are going to come to your home. And you're going to be like, fucking Gary was right. And you're going to be pumped. And that will last for a couple years until everybody's gaming the system and ruining it because marketers will become everybody. You'll ruin it. Companies will stop doing it. And even scarier than that, when you say going skiing, when you get 1 pair of skis in 2012, in 2015, same person, same scenario, you're going to get 90 things. You're going to get gloves. You're going to get jackets. You're going to get some sort of mask. You're going to get some lip gloves. You're going to get so much shit, and somehow, believe this or not, you will get tired of getting free shit. I see you shaking your head, sir. You think, no, but I'm telling you. We're going to bet. Come up here. Because I respect the other part of the discussion. Well, I'll give you 20 bucks. Shaking your head to talk to me.
I don't think I get tired of getting free shit.
Is there anything that comes to mind that you used to love and then you did too much and you don't like it anymore? Like maybe eating too much ice cream to where you don't like it anymore?
Maybe over a short period of time, yeah.
But over a long haul, no.
No.
Nice. Here we are on video. Either people are going to get tired of getting free shit or they're not, and either Mark's going to win or I'm going to win, and in 15 years we'll be back here hugging it out. Mark, thank you so much. Enjoy the 20 bucks. Don't spend it all over the place, Dan. The bottom line is, the answer of Mark and I's debate is somewhere in the middle. I'm going for shock value because I want people to start thinking about the world differently because everybody's very cozy doing the same old shit. But why do you think about it different? Mark's probably right. We're all probably too ridiculous and want shit free forever. However, things will get smarter, people make sense. There's all these things going on now like clout and cred, which I don't like because I feel like companies are going to try to figure out who to give stuff to and who not. I'm much more interested. I don't need free stuff. They're going to give it to me because I have a huge score and this and that, but I'm immune to it. I'm used to free shit. I don't like it so much. It's kind of weird. Mark just doesn't know it yet, because nobody gives Mark free shit except me, and that 20 bucks. So what happens is, I'm living it, so I know it. And so we're living through massive culture shifts. I see I'm running out of time, and I definitely want to do Q&A, and I have a bunch of books to sign, and I want to catch my flight. So I'm going to open it up to Q&A, but promise me this, through the series of conversations, analogies, and pictures I painted, please understand one thing. 2012 is here. Please, stop marketing and selling your products and services and thinking about business like it's 2002. Don't wear a fanny pack, Crocs are out, and marketing the old way is not going to work for you. Give a fuck about your customer in 2012, and you have a shot. Thank you. Even though my ego loved that. Thank you. Who's got a question? Raise it up. The gentleman's in the back. Let's give it to him before he punches you in the face. What's your name, my friend?
Chad.
Chad. Thanks.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Were you about the Miami Dolphins instead of the New York Jets?
Chad, the amount of hatred I have for the Miami Dolphins. I mean, you know what's so weird about that question? This is going to be super sports nerdy. When I said, what's your name, you said Chad. The first thing I thought of was Chad Pennington, who happened to be a Jets and Dolphins quarterback. I don't know what that means based on your question, but I have a feeling that you and I should become very, very good friends, Chad. Are you a Dolphins fan? Then fuck it. What's your name, my friend?
My name's Mike.
Mike, how are you?
Great.
Awesome.
So, knowing that pretty much everybody in here right now, except the lady in the back, has a HD camera in their HD video camera in their pocket, how do you see video playing a role in kind of all the things you're talking about right now?
You know, I built my brand from video, right? My coming out party was in 2006, really. Yes, I built a big e-commerce business, but a lot of people did that, where I think I kind of separated myself in some ways to a lot of people was I had hundreds of thousands of people watching me for 30 minutes a day, drinking 3 wines in front of them, in a world where back in 2006, the only videos that were being consumed were people putting Mentos and Pepsi bottles, you know, cats walking around trees. So, you know, I think video is massively important. I think, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I think video can be worth 1,000,000 words. I'll give you a great example where I think video could have really helped in this world. I believe in authenticity, transparency, really owning it. Ashton Kutcher, right, who I respect massively, played the game, you know, not a game, but like, I just use the word game, so it's not a game. But he played social and emerging technologies as well as anybody, not only investing, but using them, humanizing himself. What does that lead to? Biz dev opportunities. I'm telling you right now, he's not part of 2.5 Men without it, right? Does it great, has this instant, you know, happened recently with the Joe Boss situation, and decides to hand over his, you know, Twitter account to be monitored by his PR company and all this stuff. And I feel like he's losing so much of the value he brought to the table because I think he's done as well. To me, that was the perfect opportunity for him to take a flip cam in his dresser and be like, we've been taping this show for 2 days. I had no idea. I think most of you know my quality of work with children. He's done so many things. I think that we're I think people in this room know this. Our bullshit radars, especially in 2012, is so much greater than people give credit for. I think if Ashton takes the flip cam, owns it, makes that video, that's done and done. And so I think video to me is, you know how sometimes you send an email and your friend calls you or emails back and they've lost the tone of the email? A lot of people worry about that. That's why I worry about text. I think video has an authenticity to it. So quick video, I think is incredible. I use it sometimes, you know, sometimes I had an instance where somebody didn't believe I was somewhere because they thought I was dodging him in my office. So I quickly took the video and like, that's the fucking Capitol building, which is in Washington, asshole. And I sent it to him, you know? And so it worked. Like I think video really has a chance to be authentic, but video's slow. Listen, I'm so glad I wasn't in the prediction business in 2000. I would have been hot on email video, right? I thought that was going to be the shit. And I realized that text's value was in speed. So I think if you're thinking about it being efficient, that's a very dangerous place to go. Because people won't watch a video if they can read something quickly. But from authenticity and for certain cases, I think there's a lot of upside.
And here, please.
Yes, how are you, my friend?
Hey, good.
What's your name?
Chris.
Chris, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you talk about, you know, how marketers are going to ruin everything.
Yeah.
Do you see the emergence of like 2 internets? One where it's going to be, you know, here's all the public stuff with all the noise, and then here's one that people pay for to filter out all the junk. and they get their only thing, their only stuff there.
I think that's a really fascinating thought. I've never thought of it as two internets, but I can tell you this. I did a lot of angel investing in Twitter and Tumblr and all these things that were all about open. And then my favorite investment in the last 2 years is a company called Path, P-A-T-H. If you guys have iPhones, download the app. I invested in it, so I wanted to do well. But more importantly, it limited you to 50 friends. And I thought that I started investing in everything open when I don't think people realized it, and now I'm investing in everything that's closed. I think the real action in this whole noise that I just talked about every 48 hours isn't filtering. I think that's fascinating what you just brought up, especially from the pay part. I've heard rumblings in different jam sessions of what happens if you charged $1 to actually get the person to respond to an email right away? There's a lot of things that, from a gaming mechanics and paying for performance, that could be fascinating. I wouldn't call it two internets, but I think it's an interesting way to look at it. I definitely think there's mucho value in curation and filtering. As a matter of fact, all these deal of the day things, I'm about to launch something for a wine library called V Club. I'm going to personally hand curate 3,000 customers. I'm going to send them an email each month of my favorite wines, right? They're going to have free shipping globally. They're going to have a Google Voice number where 17 employees are on for concierge service. They can take a picture at a restaurant and email and say, get me this, send it to the house. Crazy service. But I'm going to curate it, right? I'm going to kick people out of it if they're not buying. It's going to be really experiential. And I think you're going to see a lot of that and a lot of value in that because that's what people want. And I think your mindset and where you asked that question from is a good place to go, and I keep barking up that angle.
On your left.
Let's go over here and then
Okay?
maybe
We'll come back
two
to
more.
that. Yep. Hello, sir.
Hey,
What's your name?
Louis,
Louie, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine.
Great.
Are you going to actually give us all a thank you phone call when this is over?
Am I gonna, I would go to facebook.com/Gary, G-A-R-Y, and I will call as many people as I can waiting for my flight and when I land. I will call as many of you that are willing to put your phone number on my Facebook account. And Louie, you better be the first fucker there.
Unfortunately, I think our last question here.
God darn it. But I'm doing book signings, so you can come and, thumb wrestle, whatever you want to do that. Yes.
Yes, thank you. My husband and I have built.
What's your name?
Adele.
Adele, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We've built a B2B in the wireless industry. We're 2 years old. We've built it on the thank you economy. I know that we are creating emotional connectivity. We are not yet seeing it on the bottom line, and our investors are very nervous. Do you have any advice? Some very large billion-dollar companies that we're working with have changed what they're doing because of what we're doing. Our value statement is connect the world, empower people.
Yep. So, to answer this question here is tougher because that was in detail, so I need to know a lot more to answer it. However, I'm glad you brought up this question because the 25-year-old version of me, and now I'm 36, that sucks, it was 35 for such a while. Anyway, well, I guess we're here. Anyway, the 36-year-old version of me is something that a 25-year-old version of me in this crowd would be making fun of right now, right? I'm very zen, give a crap, all that stuff. It's a marathon. What you're doing for your business and what I'm doing going forward for my clients and my businesses is a marathon. It's not sexy. It's not going to show numbers immediately. So what I tell all my clients that need it, especially small companies that are startups, especially when you have asshole investors, you need to make sure that, not saying yours are assholes. Okay, so you're asshole investors. So what happens here is, and this is massively important, this is very similar to what happened to me in my first book, Crush It, which Crush It came out, it was more about the individual. Go and do your thing, monetize your passions and what you're good at. But I'm very practical. I'm not in the secret business. I told you my first business was, lemonade stands. I lied. I don't like to lie often, but I'm embarrassed what my first business was, Adele. When I was 4, I used to go around the neighborhood and rip people's flowers out of their yards and then ring their doorbell and sell it back to them. Right? So you're talking to a guy that cares about business. The reason I love social media is because it sells shit. I truly believe in this. However, it's kind of like good cop, bad cop. Social media is the good cop. It's kind of like boxing, or UFC. Social media is a jab. It sets up everything else. It's kind of like parenting, typically, mom and dad, right? Stereotypically, right? The nurturing and the I'll punch you in the face if you fuck up, right? So you need a part of your equation to be the punch you in the face, the right hook, the bad cop. That needs to be part of the formula. I mean, a lot of, I do tons of push marketing still. Like, we don't call people, listen, in the context of my life, I will open doors for people, I'll help anybody, I love it. My mom is unbelievable, she raised me right, I love people, I'll do anything. But this whole talk was the context of business. We don't call people or buy them things or really listen to them because we're Mother Teresa. We do it because I think it's going to sell shit and I'm gonna keep them longer and get more word of mouth. And you know, so what you might want to think about is, I don't know how far you went to thank you economy versus, fuck you economy, but you might need a little more fuck you economy in the mix to justify it, or you need to really understand how things connect. For example, we were struggling selling the ROI to people until we found an engagement a number that really mattered to a lot of brands, which was the engagement number on a Facebook fan page. You might have a competitor that has 1 million fans on it, or 1,000 fans on it, and you have 30. But I see pages today that have 1 million fans, and when they put a comment out, a status update, I want to know what their engagement number is. How many of those people liked it, shared it, or commented? How many consumed it and gave a crap? We have a lot of brands that have an 1/8, a 20th of the market size on their Facebook fan page that another brand has, but our engagement number is a 0.7 where there's a 0.1, and that matters. And long term, so you might want to, listen, you've got to own your story. I mean, here's what it comes down to when you have investors. And I had to do this for my dad. That's the family business dynamic, same shit, right? If you really know what you're doing, you really believe, you got to show them how. If you're not getting paid dividends in enough speed, it all comes down to the practicality of running a business. If your burn rate doesn't support you being slow, then you're in trouble. If you got plenty of cash in the bank or you're making enough revenue to spring it out, it's always the same game. It's like the guy who bet against the housing market. His investors wanted to kill him. He basically almost killed himself. It was so stressful. And then one day, it turned. And I think you've got to really decide where you are in that funnel. But social media and this new one-on-one marketing is not something that happens in 1 minute. This is not your quick conversion platform. This is your lifetime value. This is your lifetime value and percentage of wallet spent. It is how you have to look at it. It's the reason you'll keep customers. Acquiring them is commodity. I don't know who you're looking for. Who are your target clients?
They are other resellers or
Of what? Physical?
distributors. Mostly cell phones, wireless cell phones.
So I would tell you one place that I think can be sneaky for you